Sean here with BaseMint Comics. It's Wednesday, August 5th. In this household, it is the best new comic book Wednesday of the year because August 5th just so happens to be Mrs. BaseMint's birthday. And so normally I don't ask for people to leave comments. I mean, I like the engagement and I like chatting back and forth, but definitely wish her a happy birthday in the comments, because how, it's pretty cool that she was like, no, go, it's Wednesday, go do your thing. So that's cool. So anyways, Hank and I hit the trails to our comic book shop because her request this morning was like, get up, I would like some peace and quiet, sleep in maybe. And so I was like, it's a good thing it's Wednesday, gonna make the kid breakfast, we're gonna hang out for a little bit, and then we hit the trails up to the comic book shop. So all right, so the ride is done. It was a good one. We had a good time. The tea is made. And speaking of the tea, since it's the missus's birthday, the tea thing is all her. I mean, like, obviously we have been together forever and known each other forever. But she was the tea drinker. And so she sort of got me hooked. So when the CBC Award votes are out, there's a couple, I've been nominated for a couple things, but the one that I love Corner Box Classics, okay? I love it. It's my thing. That'd be cool. But the thing I'm really hoping for, honestly, is the tea thing. Because she would get a huge kick out of that. I get a huge kick out of it too, but she would think that's too funny. And it would go firmly, it'd be down here, but there's she has a class klutz award because she is very clumsy from when she was in high school. And then I have a Detroit Music Award that it would go right with. So Do that with what you will. All right, so you know the deal. Books from last week. Oh, holy smokes! We saw Brand New Day last Thursday. Okay. I get that it's a Marvel movie, but maybe, and understand, I say this as a parent of a toddler who made sure that I had a babysitter. Maybe leave the littles at home. We had 2, like, under a year babies in the theater with us. And I can tell you that they were not thrilled. And then there were quite a few toddlers. And like, understand, I am a very, 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 like, this stuff should also be for kids. But I get it. You want to see it. You're excited about it. But you got to plan these things, man. Got to plan these things. Let's see. Loved the movie, by the way. Thought it was great. I have not been hypercritical of many things that Marvel has done in the cinematic universe, as other people have. I was very disappointed that at the end of the movie, when I turned my phone back on, that I got the notification that Wonder Man Season 2 had been canceled. That I was like riding high from Spider-Man, and then that was a bum out. I enjoyed that. But this was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed it. All right, stuff that I loved from last week. This Bishop book has been, like, there was the Cyclops miniseries earlier in the year that I absolutely loved. And this Bishop book, that is a character that, like, I have a huge soft spot for Bishop because it was like, he was introduced right around the time that I was really getting into the comics. And so he was sort of an interesting vantage point for me as a new reader, like him kind of coming back. And I've talked at length about my, like, love of the whole X-Men Trader thing and how that all worked out in the Onslaught thing and what that did to my brain as a child reading comics, and how that's sort of the high that I have been consistently chasing my entire life. And his sister Shard, like, my first comic that I ever got was Uncanny X-Men annual number 17. And that story, I sort of laugh anytime. There have been a few times where I've been in whatever my comic book shop was at the time. And there was one particular instance where there was, like, a person who was, it was free comic book day, and they were, like, flipping through the sale bins and getting the X-Men books. And it was kind of one of those, like, no, I don't want to have to deal with all that continuity. And it's kind of a hard thing to get into. And it's like the first issue that I ever read of X-Men was like an issue, Uncanny X-Men Annual 17 deals with Jason Wingard is suffering from the legacy virus. And he's reached out to Jean to make amends for what he did during the Dark Phoenix saga. And because of the disease, when the gold team of the X-Men, Bishop, Colossus, Archangel, Storm, Jean Grey, Iceman, when they go and visit Jason, his powers act up because of the disease, and while they're in the room with him, they unfortunately get trapped, like, in one of his illusions. He's not doing it purposely. And the story really affected me because clearly, like, I had at the time that I read it, obviously it was the first comic that I ever read. I had no concept of the Dark Phoenix saga. And so for me, it was a super interesting take on a villain where he was clearly trying to apologize for something that he'd done. I felt bad for him. And the thing that was interesting about it is it sort of opens up with, like, you kind of, in the story, you don't get that card revealed until midway through the book. You sort of are just thrust into this illusion where, like, Iceman is the leader of the X-Men, Scott and Jean are married, and Nathan and Rachel are, like, their actual kids, and Bishop is alive, obviously, like, his sister is with him, Shard. And so because of this sort of being my introduction to the X-Men, which is hilarious that it was this, like, mind, altering issue, where then I had to be like, okay, that's not real. That's not real. That's not real. None of this that I've been introduced to is real. So I do tend to laugh when in not a gatekeepy way, but just in a, like, when someone's like, oh, continuity is rough. It's like, dude, I got dropped into that. And then I think like the next issue that I read was like where Revanchi was revealed, like Quanon and the Psylocke. And I was just like, I don't have any idea other than editor's notes. And I'm just going to pedal back up to the shop when I see the little editor's notes, and I'm going to try to find those issues, and I'm going to work backwards. And that's what I did. I didn't go on the internet, because there wasn't an internet. And grouse. Anyways, point is, because of that introduction, I have a soft spot for the character Shard. So I am kind of loving this mini-series, because it is dealing with clearly a time-displaced Shard and Bishop running into her, and kind of like trying not to be like, hey, you're going to die soon. And maybe figure out some type of Doctor Who timey-wimey way to get that to work out. So that was cool. X-Men, I wish that this issue of the Juggernaut's motivations for being an X-Man and how he is dealing with it and processing it had been earlier on in this run. I thoroughly enjoyed this issue. Thought it was great. Just sort of wish that, like, this, as I was reading it, I was like, these are the things. And I know you've got like the filter that you look at the books that you grew up with, but it just sort of felt like now, I have railed against trades at length. We all get it. I'm not a fan. But there used to be like room. There used to be more room in comics. It wasn't like they were just writing this one trade and it has to read as a trade and just sit on a shelf. You could have underlying things that kind of carried through, stories introduced, peppered throughout, and something like this with the Juggernaut could have, this would have really helped earlier in that run, because otherwise Juggernaut has basically just been like wallpaper and occasionally like bounces jokes off of magic, and it sort of works, but it kind of doesn't. And so I like that this should have been maybe playing throughout the whole thing instead of just one issue devoted to it. Really enjoyed it. Glad that it happened. I just kind of wish that it just sort of happened organically throughout the entire run, as opposed to just like, hey, here's this Juggernaut focused issue. X-Men Outback. First issue was great. Second issue, great. The thing that I liked is I initially thought these were going to be like this was a mini, that the whole mini was supposed to take place in between, and it just seems like each issue so far out of the two issues are kind of one and dones just in that time period, and I actually really dig that. I think that's pretty cool. I like the way that they're doing that, as opposed to just like, hey, here's this 5-issue miniseries that you're supposed to wedge between 2 issues of Uncanny X-Men. Queen in Black, it didn't make any sense to me, and I'm still mad about how much I paid for it. I like Hela more than I like Null, and technically this Defenders Light and Dark, sure enough, this was way more. There's like a team that's introduced in Queen in Black, and I was like, oh, I like that team, and that's where they were. And so this, to me, was better than this. But it is what it is. Spider-Man, Brand New Day. That Hickman Long Way Home thing is the worst of the 3. That Punisher Spider-Man issue, #1, was fantastic. And this, I was like, I know that last Wednesday, I think I was like, I don't even know what happened in the first 2 issues. And then I read this one, and I was like, this is a blast. I'm going to pull out those other 2 issues and read those, because this has been a ton of fun. I thought it was a movie thing where they were trying to do that, and it sort of probably is. But Dan Slott, Brand New Day era of Spider-Man, albeit not my favorite because I'm a Mary Jane fan, but I'm not one of those that's like, oh my god, Peter's been ruined ever since then. This has been like a nice, as far as minis go, and they are hit or miss, it's pretty good. Doom Quest, thoroughly enjoying. Doom goes full Doom, and then like he's kind of been playing it a little bit nice in the first two. Goes full Doom in the third one for sure. Mortal Thor, this book has been a blast, and there is a character that I was very upset that they got rid of in an earlier portion of this series that has made his return. And I know I don't hear a lot of chatter. There's like a couple people that I watch their videos that are enjoying this book as much as I am, which I'm always delighted to hear. But like, it's really good. It's really good. I really like the Immortal Thor. I've been enjoying the Immortal Thor. It was good. So last week was a solid week of books. This week, even better. This week is like, if I were to look at the months, and I tend to do this a lot because of Cornerbox Classics, where it's like you can definitely tell, like you get into a pattern, and they get into a publishing pattern, and this book comes out this week, and this book comes out this week. This week is just, this is the week. Like this is the week that I look forward to every month, and I kind of wish that I wish that they break them up a little bit, because it's like every book that I am like, hell yeah, I can't wait to read this, is coming out this week. So, what did I pick up this week? My one of two DC books. I picked up Batman, the full introduction of Verity Pennyworth. Do I know anything about this? I do not. Oh, I do know there's an ad here for the Mark Waid, Chris Samney sequel to Batman, whatever it was called. Oh, there it is. Batman and Robin Year One. I read that in the single issues as it was coming out, because I'm not going to, like, I get it. I'm not a DC guy, but like a Batman and Robin Year One book that's drawn by Chris Samney and written by Mark Waid is probably going to be pretty good. And I really enjoyed it. But it was one of those things where I was like, am I going to read this? Like, again, you know, and that's a criteria for me keeping things in here, especially now. Kind of, that's been my goal with the Cornerbox Classics thing, is to like read through everything and decide, like, am I going to keep this? Is this going to stay? Is this something that I'm going to reread? You know, am I going to curl up in my chair in the corner of the comic book room with a mug of tea and read this again and again and again? Or do I just have it because I'm a damn completionist when it comes to runs? And so Batman and Robin was one of those things where I am not a flipper. I do not buy things in order to sell. The comic books that I have sold, it is usually in an effort to fund other things within the hobby. And so Batman and Robin, that first 12 issue miniseries, like I got it, read it, and was like, and I wound up flipping it, which funded us going to a convention. And at that convention, Mark Waid was there, and he wound up selling me on picking that up in trade, which I'm fine picking it up in trade, but I'm probably gonna do exactly the same thing with this second one. I will probably be picking that up. And Fraction's run of Batman has been fun. I'm kind of interested to see the dynamic of this Verity Pennyworth character. But like I say, and I say this a lot, I guarantee you that a good chunk of this run is lost on me because I'm new. And it's a weird thing to say, knowing that I've been reading comic books. Like, there isn't a time period since picking up Uncanny X-Men Annual number 17 in the early 90s that I have not been picking up comics. Like I see a lot of that where it's like, oh, I gave up during college, or one of the things that I see a lot, which is super fascinating to me, is, I guess, from what I gather, there seems to be a pretty large group of the fandom that I see out there that got back into the books during the pandemic, which I think is fascinating. I think I know why. Like, I imagine, but it's weird because, like, my wife and I both have jobs that kept us. I work in healthcare, and she worked in the housing industry at the time. She's a stay-at-home mom now. And so we were like, I mean, I worked every day for, like, I think it was 3 years. So we were very busy. And so, like, it's weird to me because I remember comics sort of like, during that time period, there was like, I mean, I was working ridiculously long days for what I have to do for my job and what I was assigned to do during that initial time period of all that. And I don't want to like, and I remember there was like, I was getting my comics through DCBS at the time. And I like got the box and it's sort of weird because it was kind of just, I mean, I didn't really have time to read during that thing. And so I wasn't aware until later that there were like a lot of people that were like, oh, hell yeah. And I get it. I get it because I think there was like a lot of like, oh shit, I'm stuck in my house. And like, I kind of miss this hobby that I used to have. And so for me, that time period is fascinating to me. Particularly in the fandom, because I know that there were a lot of people that like bought into like it's an interesting time period because I never got out. And so this sort of thing happened while I wasn't paying attention. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Like I would love someone to do like a deep breakdown of like the fandom during that time period. Because like I said, I wasn't checked out from reading comics, but I was checked out from like participating in any type of socialization, be it in real life or online at the time, which it's just, for me, it's fascinating. All that is to say that I know Marvel, but Batman, DC, that stuff, I just don't. And so it's weird being a dude who has legitimately like I've been at the shop every Wednesday since the early 90s. And, you know, I don't know anything about this. Civil War Unmasked #4. I love Christos Gage. So I gave this a shot because I think that Christos Gage writes great comic books. There was a mini he did last year called Battle World that was revolved around, obviously, Secret Wars. And that sort of ended, and I thought it was leading into this. And so I kind of like, I love watching other channels on YouTube and like getting other people's opinion on stuff, seeing what people are digging, like it, you know, I like also, it's sort of one of those things where, and I steer towards channels where people talk about their love of this, because like, I don't really want to, like, I've loved this thing for the majority of my life. I've made really good, like my childhood best friend, you know, a good chunk of our relationship was built off of this. Lots of my friends, you know, this was like the common denominator, and our relationships have grown beyond, you know, this. But it's a big part of my life, and like, so I don't want to, like, why would I'm not, you know, like when I watch shows on TV or movies and stuff like that, I'm not going to be like, let me watch this movie that I think sucks. You know what I mean? And it's sort of like, that's how I feel about comics too, where it's like, I'm not going to, there's so many people out there with really good channels that are passionate about it. Why would I ever dive into like, this thing sucks? Anyways, I'm very much all over the place tonight. I say that because it's like, I pay attention to some YouTube channels. I get a Marvel previews to order, but I don't really read solicitations. And I certainly do not engage in any type of like social media when it comes to comics, other than being involved in YouTube. But like, I don't, you know, or forums, or I don't really visit any like news, because all that stuff stopped being news and it suddenly became like clickbaity movie shit 20 years ago. And what's the point, you know? That's all to say that like, I probably, if I had read the solicitation of this, I would have realized that it wasn't the thing that I thought it was going to be, a continuation of something else. And this is more like, it's just kind of these issues that sort of fall into aspects of Civil War, kind of diving a little bit deeper into them. And I was expecting like a multiversal, I don't know, it was weird. Anyways, they've been enjoyable. It's just not what I initially set out for, so I might not have joined in if I'd been. And so this is more of an indictment of like my, I had to do this thing where I like backed away from paying attention to this a little bit too much, because if like, it's easy for the loud negative voices to find their way in, and that's never been me. Season 4 just premiered. I take a very Ted Lasso approach to comic books of just trying to find the good in them. First episode was great. A little rusty in the front end of it, I felt, because it was like weird. It was like, I don't know, but it ended strong, and I wish they'd done a thing where they released 2 episodes, because I knew the first episode was going to end the way that it ended, and so I just kind of wanted to get to the thing. So I kind of wish they'd dropped 2 episodes, but that's just me. Maybe I just wanted more. The show's fantastic. First 3 seasons are perfect, and you know, Shrinking is also great, and there is a time period show that my wife is very into old movie. I am as well, but she is much more like, she's a hardcore, like how I know comic book creators and things like that. She knows old Hollywood. And so there's like a time period show called Palm Royale on Apple now that we signed back up for Ted Lasso. I'm pointing at the TV in this room because that's where we watched it. We were going to watch that. Give it a shot. Okay. What if Captain America? I'm hoping this one is positive. The other what ifs have been, what if Captain America was revived in 2099? See, I am legitimately learning about what I bought as. That's great. That's great. That's such a cool concept for a 2099. And it looks like it was written by Mark Guggenheim, penciled by Ron Lim. Man, I'm so excited for this. 2099 was one of like the first, that was X-Men 2099 #1 was also like in that first like 6 months of me getting into comics was the 2099 universe, and I loved it. It didn't, God, it's probably been 12 years or something like that. Me and my neighbor actually, we didn't live next door. He worked at my comic book shop. We lived next door to each other now, and I have for the last 6 years. But back when we lived in our old neighborhoods, which were still close by, but we weren't neighbors. We would get together on Saturday mornings, bike around, and talk about comics. And he's into wrestling, so he would tell me about wrestling. And wrestling's like one of those things that I've never been into. I watched some in the 80s, but like his excitement for the wrestling stuff makes me want, like, I sort of wish that I was into it because he gets excited about it. And I'm like, this seems so cool. But I like almost need someone to sit me down and be like hold my hand through the process. Anyways, we did an X-Men 2099 reread, and that was sort of like the book that we agreed upon. We did an Ultimate Universe read, and we did an X-Men 2099, and sort of like would pedal around and share our thoughts on that while we got some exercise. That was what we would do. So I am jazzed about this. That'll be a fun read. Queen in Black #2. If you wondered why I was dumb enough to buy #1 for $7.99, it is because this is the cover to #2, which has the Fantastic Four on it. And as you know, my thing is X-Men first, Fantastic Four second, and I saw in the previews that #3 has the X-Men on the cover, and so I was like, well, I guess I'm buying this. I bought King in Black, so I'm hoping that this is more fun than issue #1. I'm happy because it was less money, so already has that going for it. Mary Jane. It is like, listen, Mary Jane kicks ass. And to get a book with J.M. DeMatteis writing it Ann Nocenti, J. Michael Straczynski. You got some Phil Noto art in this, okay? And it is stories about Mary Jane from back in the day. You're not going to see her suited up as Venom in this, so hell yeah, I will throw $4.99 at that. X-Men vs. Apocalypse Omega. Art in this has been great. Jeff Loeb, I mean, he was one of the architects of the Age of Apocalypse. So, and this has been a lot more Gambit themed than I thought it would be. And the art is straight up out of my childhood, which is weird because when I go back and look at the art from my childhood, it's not as good as the stuff that I was like dismissive of when I was younger because I was an idiot. It's sort of like one of those things where like you get into Nirvana and your dad's like, oh, you should check out this Led Zeppelin record. And you're like, yeah, old man, I'll save your boomer music. And you're an idiot because you're like, no, this is fantastic. But it just takes you a little bit. It just takes you a little while to get there. Every kid goes through it. Point is, this has been a lot of fun. I just wish it had come out more regularly as opposed to like bi-monthly. How does that work? Every other month. And so it's sort of like by the time that I get around to this, I'm older. Things aren't, you know, they don't stay as long up there. I got a lot of stuff going on. But I should probably pull every issue of this out and reread it. And I know now that it leads into some type of Gambit miniseries. And so I was like, hey, that's exciting. Speaking of Gambit, Uncanny X-Men number 733. I was very saddened at the end of issue 732 to see that Rogue and Gambit were leaving the team. And I was like, oh, that's a bummer. And then I saw the cover for this, and it's Gambit and Rogue. And I was like, oh, okay. So they're like not on the team, but they're still, which is nice. Because that's a thing that like, not to go on and on about the 17 years that Claremont carried the Marvel Universe on his back by writing the greatest title Marvel ever put out, Uncanny X-Men. But let me tell you, there was a wonderful thing that he did through that book where even when members of the team left the team, they didn't leave the book. The time period when Cyclops like fucks off because Jean died and he's like hanging out with Lee Forrester, like working on a fishing boat is fantastic. There's this classic Despair issue, inked by Joe Rubinstein. It's fantastic. Such a good issue. And I love that stuff about Claremont's run of Uncanny X-Men, where it was like, it legitimately felt like a soap opera. And I know people are like, no, you're an idiot. Like there was this... I love the fact that he cared enough about the characters to like keep them in the book even when they weren't a mainstay of the team to keep their story going. It made it feel like a real world. It made it feel like a real world, and it was important. So I was pretty happy to see those two still on the cover. Iron Man number 8. This has slowly become one of my favorite Marvel books that they are putting out. The cat that is writing it, Joshua Williamson, has been fantastic. I will say this whole like artist Carmen Carnero returns. I thought it was because there's only been 8 issues, and I get it. I understand. I know things are different now, and I'm putting on my old man glasses. But I'm just like, I just thought that struck me as funny because it was just like, okay, like maybe we get more. You know, obviously that dude is a draw to the book as well as the writer. So maybe we get a couple more issues in the can before we put it out there. How about that? Speaking of that, Captain America, this arc has been fantastic. First issue of this arc, this Hell's Angel story arc, issue number 1 was fantastic. And then issue number 2, they did a pivot and the artist changed. And the art's good, but it's not the art from the first issue. And that was on another level. Again, this artist is doing a good job, but the art from the first issue was just better. And I would like to see artists finish the books that they're on. It's just like, you know, it's part of the deal, you know? Amazing Spider-Man 998. Been enjoying the hell out of this Joe Kelly run. I know I'm like, I know everyone has their feelings. It's like everyone reads, it's like that book that everyone just has in their pull. And so everyone has an opinion on it. But I just sort of I'm like, oh, I get another Spider-Man comic. Hooray. That's, what are you going to do? It's been a fun comic book, and I'm like, as they're gearing up towards, I'm excited. Like I was like, when I was sitting down with Hank at the comic book store, and I was trying to he's still he's been into this show that's like a space show from Disney Plus from like 10 years ago, so it's not like a current popular show, and there's a lot of like space words that aren't real, that are made up, and he's kind of in the mush mouth phase of figuring things out, and he's trying to say all these things, and I'm like, and today he kept on saying, I'm a button pusher, and I was like, what the fuck does he mean by this? And then I figured out that that the other day, and my wife was like, you're pushing all my buttons, kid. And so today it was like, I'm a button pusher. I don't know why am I saying that? Because he was having that conversation as I was like making sure that I got all the books that I got. And I was like, man, I thought about, I was like, we're going to be pedaling up here in September, and we're going to be getting an Amazing Spider-Man number 1000. And I was like, I'm pretty excited for that. That's pretty cool. Like, I like the fact that this little dude because it was Spider-Man Day on August 1st, and I was going through all these photos of him. And I was like, man, this kid has just been, like, growing up with Spider-Man his whole life. Anyways, it was a moment. I don't know if I needed to share that. The button pusher thing fucking cracked me up, though. Last but not least, Fantastic Four. It's so good. It's just so good. There was another book there where they did like covers, where it was like a book of all of the Fantastic Four covers. I was very happy that it was not in my poll, because I was like, hey, I have all of this. I know what the covers look like. I don't need them to slap them together in a book and charge me $7.99 or whatever for that. But this book has been fantastic. I'm a little bit interesting. Oh, man, this looks great. I just flipped through some stuff, and I was like, this looks great. Ryan North's run on the book has been fantastic. I can't say that enough. I say it to you all the time. There's probably people who've watched the channel and been like, Jesus, this kid just says the same thing over and over again. It's true. Every bit of this world's greatest comic book magazine, or comic magazine, has been well earned on the Ryan North run. It has been fantastic. And as a person who was absolutely devastated when Marvel shelved that title for years because of film rights, it brings me immense joy to be able to say every time that one of the book comes out that has, like, never in my life... it's weird being like, I'm more excited to read that Fantastic Four than I am Uncanny X-Men. But that's where I'm at. That's how good it is. And you can... If you've been around, you know how much I love the Uncanny X-Men. So for me to be like, I'm looking forward to this the most this week, that should tell you everything you need to know about that book without me saying anything else. But I could go on and on about it. So there you have it. That's what I picked up this week. It was a good day. We had a blast. Lots of fun stuff was had. I should get out of here so I can go finish the day celebrating with my favorite person, my other favorite person. Yeah, and so, don't forget to vote for BaseMint Comics for the weird tea thing, because that will bring my wife a great amount of joy. And yeah, holy smokes. It's the first Wednesday where there hasn't been anything dripping in this basement in 55 days. How exciting is that? That's pretty exciting. There is one leak, but I think we got it. But I can't check it until 3 p.m. tomorrow. So we'll see. But right now, no water dripping anywhere in this basement. So and the other day I patched the hole in the ceiling of my office and fixed the door or the wall. The wall is fixed. It was like a drywall bump out for some pipes, and so I wound up just doing a different thing with it where I like 2x4s out and then put a wall on there that I decopashed with a bunch of torn up John Byrne Fantastic Four. I know, but it looks great. And I can easily, with 4 screws, unscrew it and get to that pipe if I ever need to again. All right, I am going to go and have a dance party to the soundtrack of Grease with my family. And then I am going to watch X-Men 97 with my wife, because that is absolutely what she would want to do on her birthday. I mean, she enjoys it, so, you know, but... and then I'm going to read some comics. How exciting is that? So, this weekend is a busy one, so I hope to get to Cornerbox Classics, because it's a good week, but it might be Monday, but I hope that it's the weekend. But I have once a year, there's a group of pals of mine that come in, because we live, obviously you see it, we live right on top of a very fantastic bike trail that we ride. So there is a group from out of state that I'm buddies with, pals of mine for a long time. One of the guys, some of this collection is his, because he sold it to me years and years and years ago. Stood up in my wedding, fantastic dude. Played in a great band. One of my favorite drummers of all time. Anyways, those cats come up here and we all ride that trail and then go out for barbecue afterwards, and it's a pretty good time. And then it's happening over the weekend, and so, you know, I hope I can do it all, but we never know. So it could be this weekend, could be Monday, whatever, you know. I'm here on my wife's birthday talking about new comics, so give me a day if I need to do other stuff over the weekend. Plus Friday we're going down to see some pals of ours that are in a band. So yeah, it's a fun, busy weekend. It's summertime, you know. You got to do what you got to do. Got to go touch grass or whatever the kids say. I'll be back. Cornerbox Classics. There's a fucking Fantastic Four issue where Gladiator takes on the whole team. You know I can't wait to talk about that. And the 4th issue of that Hercules miniseries. So you know I'm gonna blow off all these people this weekend and just read comics. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Enjoy your comics this Wednesday. I hope everybody had a kick-ass Wednesday. And thanks for taking this ride with us. Bye.